Conflict creates pressure. But pressure alone doesn't change anything. The legislative sector is where pressure becomes policy, where demands become laws, where redistribution actually happens or doesn't. Today, we examine how political pressure translates into legislative action. What determines the direction of policy? What controls the speed? Why do some systems respond quickly while others stagnate? This is the conversion mechanism. Understanding it is key to understanding political change. Legislative position, our variable L, represents where current law and policy stand on the redistribution spectrum. High L means policy favors the poor. Progressive taxation, strong social safety nets, labor protections, wealth redistribution. Low L means policy favors the rich. Low taxes, weak safety nets, capital-friendly regulations, concentrated wealth. L is a stock that moves based on legislative action. Laws get passed, regulations change, budgets allocate. Each action shifts L slightly. Over time, these shifts accumulate. The key question: what determines which direction L moves and how fast? Legislative movement responds to political pressure. When class conflict is high and the poor are mobilized, pressure pushes L upward. The system feels demand for redistribution. When the rich are mobilized and use their resources to influence policy, pressure pushes L downward. The system feels demand for concentration, but pressure alone doesn't determine outcome. The legislative system has its own dynamics. Inertia. It's hard to change policy. Existing laws have momentum. Institutions resist rapid change. Capacity. The legislative system can only process so much at once. Bandwidth is limited. Ideology. Legislators have preferences beyond responding to pressure. Some genuinely believe in certain policies. The equation for legislative change looks something like dl dt gamma x, pressure C W, resistance L N L, changes based on a responsiveness parameter gamma, multiplied by the difference between incoming pressure and institutional resistance. Gamma, the responsiveness parameter, is crucial. High gamma means the legislative system responds quickly to pressure. Democratic systems with competitive elections, free press, and accountable institutions tend to have high gamma. Low gamma means the system responds slowly or not at all. Authoritarian systems, captured institutions, or sclerotic bureaucracies have low gamma. What determines gamma? Electoral competition. When legislators face real risk of losing office, they respond to pressure. Media freedom. When information flows freely, problems become visible and pressure builds effectively. Institutional design. Some systems are structured for quick response. Others have multiple veto points and slow movement. Historical path. Systems that have responded before tend to keep responding. Systems that have resisted tend to keep resisting. Gamma isn't fixed forever, but it changes slowly. It's a property of the political system itself, not something that shifts with each election. Delays are endemic to the legislative sector. Recognition delay, time between a problem emerging and legislators noticing it, can be months or years. Response delay, time between recognizing a problem and passing legislation. Debate, negotiation, procedural requirements all take time. Implementation delay, time between passing a law and it taking effect. Bureaucracies move slowly. Rules need to be written. Agencies need to be staffed. Impact delay, time between implementation and actual effects on wealth distribution. Even good policy takes time to change outcomes. These delays compound. The total time from problem to impact can be years or decades. By the time legislation responds to a problem, the situation may have changed entirely. This is why legislative systems tend to fight the last war. They're responding to conditions that existed when the process started, not conditions that exist now. Delays create oscillation potential. Imagine conflict rises, pressure builds. Eventually, the legislature responds with redistribution. But by the time redistribution takes effect, conflict has already fallen because conditions changed. Now, there's redistribution without pressure. The rich push back. Policy reverses. But by the time it reverses, new conflict has emerged. The system oscillates around equilibrium, never quite settling. Reform, backlash, reform, backlash. The amplitude of oscillation depends on delay length and responsiveness. Long delays plus high responsiveness equals big swings. The system overcorrects in both directions. Short delays or low responsiveness reduces oscillation. The system adjusts more smoothly. But low responsiveness has its own problems. It can let pressure build to dangerous levels before responding. There's a fundamental asymmetry in political pressure. The rich have resources. Money for lobbying, campaign contributions, think tanks, media ownership. They can apply pressure continuously, even without mass mobilization. The poor have numbers. They can vote, protest, strike. But collective action is costly. They can only mobilize periodically, around crises. This asymmetry biases the legislative system. In quiet times, rich pressure dominates and L drifts downward. In crisis times, poor pressure spikes and L jumps upward. The net effect depends on the balance. How often do crises occur? How big are the upward jumps? How steady is the downward drift? In Saylor's model, this asymmetry is captured through different pressure functions for rich and poor. The poor's pressure is a function of conflict intensity. The rich's pressure is a function of wealth level. Both push on L, usually in opposite directions. Social norms constrain legislative action. Even if pressure demands extreme policy, norms limit what's acceptable. Confiscatory taxation violates property norms, elimination of safety nets violates welfare norms. N acts as a bound on how far L can move in either direction. Strong norms keep policy within a band of acceptable options. Weak norms allow policy to swing to extremes. This creates another interaction between sectors. High conflict erodes norms. Eroded norms allow more extreme legislation. Extreme legislation can further increase conflict or trigger backlash. The legislative sector isn't independent. It's embedded in the larger system, constrained by norms, responding to conflict, affecting wealth distribution, feeding back into everything else. Here's your challenge. For your chosen political economy, assess the legislative sector. Where does current policy stand? High L, favoring the poor, or low L, favoring the rich? What's the responsiveness? Does the system respond quickly to pressure or slowly? Where are the delays? Recognition, response, implementation, impact? What's the current direction? Is L rising, falling, or stable? Sketch the pressure balance. Who's pushing? How hard? In what direction? Next episode, the role of the executive. What happens when concentrated power can bypass normal legislative processes? See you then.